Hi, I'm Reverend Wendy Craig-Purcell here at the Unity Center in San Diego. Thank you so much for watching today. If you'd like to support the work that we do here, please consider making a contribution. Go to our website. It's easy to do. Thank you in advance for that contribution. In this idea of well-being, I can remember a number of years ago, and I think it was when we had Deepak Chopra here the very, very first time, so this has got to go back at least 25 years ago, when he was talking about the idea of perfect health and well-being, and he gave a fact that the body, every cell in the body regenerates itself like every 7 years, you're practically new. That bothered me. Now, that was 25 years ago. Imagine how much that bothers me now. If that's true, or even partially true, why do we look the way we look? I don't know, but I know I have to be gentle with myself about that. I think a piece that is so important is the idea that we have to understand better what the life force is. And many ancient traditions understood the idea of the life force, prana, chi, better than it seems we do. I think for a very, very long time, the whole study of medicine was focused on pathology. What's wrong, right? And in much more recent years, that has shifted quite a bit to the study of what are the factors. What are the factors that seem to help facilitate well-being? And what would happen if we actually studied those factors? Could we help people to live longer? Could we help people to live in a healthier and more vibrant way? And I think we are discovering that the answer is yes. The answer is yes. There is definitely a connection to our degree of well-being with everything that we think and feel and the decisions that we make. And so I want to share with you just some ideas, some possibilities for you to consider in terms of turning points that you might begin to practice. Some of these may be brand new for you. Others of these may be good reminders. You might find yourself going, oh, you know what? I've kind of slipped in that area. Let me pick back up and practice here. So there are 6 turning points I'm going to share. The first turning point to greater well-being in our lives is when we really commit to learning better to love and accept ourselves. To love and accept ourselves. Say that with me. To love and to accept ourselves. Christianity is rooted in part in the idea of love for sure. Jesus said it was the greatest commandment is to love God with all your mind and heart and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And sometimes I think we have forgotten, or we have changed that word as, and in our minds, we have turned it into instead of, right? Instead of. He didn't say instead of. He said as yourself. To love your neighbor as yourself. So learning better to truly love and accept ourselves. And I'll tell you, it is not easy to do in this society, in our culture. Would you not agree? How many very young people are trying to fit into such a tight model, whatever. You know what mold is what I'm trying to say. Fit into such a tiny mold because they think this is what health looks like, or this is what beauty looks like, or this is the way that I have to be in order to be accepted or loved or appreciated. I remember my own journey years ago with an eating disorder. And it was absolutely, the external was the eating disorder. But the true problem wasn't eating. The true problem was my not accepting myself. My thinking I wasn't good enough, I didn't look the way I should look, I didn't look like the pictures I had. You know what I'm saying, right? We all have a version of that. It's a little bit like we are trying to fit in a very small box. I'm reminded of out of Greek mythology, the Titan Prometheus. There's a story about Prometheus that he had a guest room and a guest bed in that guest room, and that guest bed was just one size. And if you were invited to spend any time with Prometheus, you had to sleep in that bed, and you had to fit that bed perfectly.
And if you were too short, you would put on a stretcher so you would fit that bed. And if you were too long, I won't fill in the blanks for the rest of that. But in a way, that's very indicative of the culture that we have set up. And the truth of the matter is, I think you and I can help this next generation coming alongside of us to help them to love and accept themselves better than maybe the messages we got ourselves. Second turning point, and this is a really important one. I think Jesus talked about it a lot, and it is when we learn to forgive ourselves. Oh man, oh man. Sometimes it seems that we do a better job at forgiving the other, right, than forgiving ourselves. How many of you, and I'm not going to ask you, raise your hand, have ever done anything that you were embarrassed by or ashamed of? Or you look back and you go, oh, that was not a good moment. I really made some bad choices there. Or I really messed up maybe in a significant way. To the degree that we do not learn to forgive ourselves, to that degree we are held to that lower version of ourselves. And that lower version of ourselves is never going to make the best possible decisions. When we learn not only to forgive ourselves and we learn to forgive the other, together we create a much more harmonious world. I'm not suggesting that all things are equally easy to forgive. The truth of the matter is they are not. But what happens when we do not forgive, whether we're talking about not forgiving ourselves or not forgiving the other, what happens when we do not do our forgiveness work is we create a toxic internal environment for ourselves. And we are the ones that hurt the most as a result of that. Forgiveness does not mean that we ever condone that which is wrong. And we might have to work very diligently and very consciously and rooted in compassion to right the injustices and wrongs in our world. That does not excuse us, though, from doing that deeper inner work of forgiveness for our own sake. Say that with me. For our own sake. For our own sake. A third turning point, and this is probably the most obvious one when we're talking about well-being, and that is learning to take care of ourselves physically. How many of you know there are things you should be doing to take care of yourself, to take better care of yourself physically, and aren't quite doing it? Raise your hand, be honest, okay, right? What was that statistic I shared with you last week? And I said, even if it's only partially true, 87% of Americans own high-level running shoes, and very few of them run. You know what to do, don't you? Come on, give me a yes. I know you know what to do. So do I. So do I. There's so much wisdom in these ideas. It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives, but what we do consistently. Glenn Thompson, I remember you from years and years ago when we would talk about health as it related to just healthy choices food-wise. And I remember you saying to me, you know, Wendy, it's not what you occasionally enjoy. It's not that occasional, I don't know, piece of chocolate or whatever we were talking about. It's whatever you are doing consistently. It's the consistency. How many of us fall off the wagon, so to speak, make a bad choice, and then we throw everything to the wind? Right? Am I only talking to me and you're eavesdropping again? All right. And I love that quote, and I wish I knew who said it. A year from now, you will have wished you started today. So whatever that is for you, whether it's making healthier choices, whether it's exercise, it doesn't matter what it is. Start it now. Start it now. I'm not going to belabor that point. The fourth one, bless you. Fourth turning point is when we learn to relax and balance our lives. When we learn to relax and balance our lives. This last 10 days for me is, I would give myself an F on that. Been juggling an awful lot of wonderful things on behalf of the church and the work that we've been doing on racial literacy and so forth. But what I know is that if there's a period of time in my life, and I suggest this might be true for you, where things are really wild, crazy, busy, and you said yes to all those things that made that time period wild, crazy, busy, that then you step back and say, all right, how do I rebalance now? How do I rebalance now? Because that's what's really important. I love this Anne Lamott quote, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a while, including you. Isn't that great? Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a while, including you. What does unplugging look like for you? And that's a very personal thing. It's not exactly the same for everyone else. My unplugging from a crazy week this past week was when I left here yesterday. My unplugging was going to my dishwasher that was still loaded with dishes from 40 people in my house on Friday night and putting them away. It felt wonderful. Now, for some of you, that would not be unplugging, right? It's not the what. It's the what only as it relates to how does it live inside of you? How does it live inside of you? Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a while, including yourself. Jesus talked about this, or Jesus said this, come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. I will give you rest. As we understand that metaphysically, we understand that Jesus represents a certain consciousness, what we would call in unity, God consciousness. And it is true that when we come into the experience of God consciousness, we experience a degree of well-being and rest. It's as if in that experience we are able to lay down the burdens of the busyness of our lives and the responsibility of our lives and step into a different awareness, step into an experience of peace, an experience of letting go. He's speaking on not just the physical level, he's speaking on the metaphysical level. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Come, when he talked about going and praying, he said, go into the closet, shut the door. He didn't mean a physical closet. Shutting the door was to shut out the outside world temporarily, to unplug, to touch that awareness of God, and to relax. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. The fifth turning point, when we learn to pace ourselves. P-A-C-E, when we learn to pace ourselves. I have had to get better at realizing that I cannot run my life as if it was a 50-yard dash. It's a marathon. It's not a 50-yard dash. I was thinking about this idea of pace, and I came up with an acronym for myself that I want to share with you. And it's working as I'm using it. Isn't that amazing? These things work if you use them, right? Right? So pace ourselves. Here's what I wrote to myself. The P stands for pause, simply pausing. The A stands for accept the moment. I may not like the moment, but accept the moment. So pause, accept the moment. The C stands for connect with God. And if you have problems with the God word, that's okay. I spent a lot of time having problems with the God word. Substitute another word, connect with the good. But it's connecting, so you're pausing, which means you're stopping for just a moment. Just a moment. You are accepting the moment. Whatever is. You may not like it, you may love it. It's going to be impermanent, but it is what it is right now. And connect with God or connect with the good because there is something good in that moment. Sometimes you have to look a little longer and a little harder, but there is good in that moment. And the E is one of my favorite words. If I could get it on my license plate, I would, but it's already taken. Exhale. Do that with me. What happens in the body when you do that? Right, yeah, the shoulders just go down. Do it again. Consciously exhaling. And then the last turning point is to live with a sense of humor. to live with a sense of humor. And if you don't come by that naturally, then make sure you spend some time with somebody who does live with a sense of humor. Thank goodness for the internet, right? There are so many adorable things that you can Google if you really need to that will absolutely get you laughing. I know that I can't quote them right now. I just know that there are studies that have been done on the effectiveness, health-wise, when people are laughing. I understand there's even a laughing guru that really gets this energy of laughter. It's as if when we are really genuinely laughing, not the kind of sarcastic laughter of laughing at somebody's expense. I'm not talking about that kind of laughter, but wholehearted, wholesome laughter about something that is just quirky or just plain funny, that it's as if we are breaking up any of the hardness around our heart or hardness in our souls, right? I am so fortunate that I am married to someone who is so different than I am. My mother used to say, "You were born serious." I think she's right. I think she's right. But I attracted into my life somebody who was not born serious. And John, I didn't know you were in the room. He does that every once in a while. He makes me laugh. He makes me laugh. I have a staff that makes me laugh and that we laugh together. Our Monday morning staff meetings, we make it a point just to be real and to allow for laughter, to allow for some silliness. As adults, it's so easy for us to take on so much responsibility that we let ourselves be burdened in ways and for lengths of time that we really don't have to be. And all of these things that I've shared with you, all of them and any of them, are directly linked to our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. And none of these things cost a penny to do, right? They're all behaviors, they're all attitudes. So let me go back and just quickly refresh your memory with them. The very first one was when we learned to love and accept ourselves. Put your hand on your heart for a moment. I'm going to love and accept myself more. Say that with me. I'm going to love and accept myself more. If that was hard for you, all the more reason to work it. All the more reason to work it. The second was when we forgive ourselves and when we forgive others. The third was when we take better care of ourselves physically. The fourth was when we learn to relax and balance our lives. The fifth was when we learn to pace ourselves better. And the last was when we learn to live with a sense of humor. Namaste.
Many people enjoy Reverend Wendy's talks and meditations and aren't able to attend the Unity Center in person. If you're part of our extended family from around the world and would like to help support the Unity Center, please go to our website or download our free app, which offers even more ways to connect with the Unity Center. Namaste.